Namaskar to everyone. We welcome all to the Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series 11 being conducted today on 25th March 2022. Manage organizes Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series by inviting eminent persons from varied fields of agriculture and development sectors to motivate and inspire the professionals. Here, we invite outstanding personalities to Manage to share their knowledge essence through live lectures to its faculty members, trainees, students, and invitees from the leading institutions and also networks. These lectures are recorded as video films to share through Manage YouTube and social media so as to reach to a larger audience that includes officers from state departments of agriculture and allied sectors, faculty members of agricultural universities, samitis and extension education institutes, scientists of Krishi Vigyan Kendras, agripreneurs, NGOs, and public at large. One such talk is scheduled today. We are privileged to invite Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda, former Deputy Director General, International Crop Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, called as ICRISAT, on the topic Technology Adoption, Learnings from Global Experience. Welcome, sir. Now I request our Director General, Manage, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara, to welcome and introduce today's eminent personality.
Thank you, Dr. Jaya. Good morning, all of you. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all my colleagues within Manage and my extension colleagues who are from other organizations, Manage facilitators who are participating in this very important talk. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda, former Deputy Director General, International Crop Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, which is popularly known as ICRISAT, which is located in Hyderabad, working globally. So, on behalf of Manage family, I would like to welcome Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda for this very important talk on technology adoption, learnings from global experience. Hearty welcome to you, sir, for this talk.
Thank you.
A word about Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series initiated by Manage. We all say that agriculture has no boundary. It is global in nature. And we all say that it is think globally and act locally. When we want to transform this slogan into practice, we need to sit with professionals who worked at the global level. We should listen to their experiences, which are international in nature. And then only we can take the benefit of their experiences for local action. The local action takes place by an extension worker who lives in village on day-to-day basis. He is working with the farmers. He faced several challenges. There are 100 reasons to get demotivated, but we should have few reasons to get inspired and to acquire global experiences by listening to outstanding professionals, linking the experiences of international experts, their experiences with a local extension worker is the very purpose of Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Series lecture. And we have completed around 11 lectures. Very outstanding people. They use this platform to communicate with the grassroots level extension worker. This process will continue, but what is important is on this platform, we address only limited audience. Mostly they are faculty members and other colleagues in Manage and directors of samitis, EAs, and other partner institutions of Manage and Manage national facilitators are also part of this audience. This limited audience listen to this talk directly, but what is more important is this talk will be edited and that will be communicated to more than 1 lakh people who are working in different parts of the country and outside also. So that is the very purpose of this Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series. For the benefit of all the audience here, I would like to introduce the respected speaker of today's talk, Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda. Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda retired as he is a former Deputy Director General, International Crop Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, which is located in Hyderabad. He has a vast experience working with global level organizations. At present, he is also a co-founder of a consultancy services called GRSV Consultancy Services. The focus of this service is guiding stakeholders in agriculture on agriculture research for development, on-farm research, organic farming, research management, agribusiness, and public-private partnership. These are all some of the core areas where this GRSV consulting services are providing services. He worked with several countries, national agriculture research systems, namely Bangladesh, China, Indonesia, Nepal, and Vietnam, closely associated between 1992 to 2014. He worked with around 12 Asian countries as coordinator of Cereals and Legume Asia Network. It's popularly known as CLAN, for nearly 22 years with the 12 countries. This international experience is, so I'm sure that will be very, very valuable for all our audience. And later, he also worked as Director Grain Legumes Research Program during 2011 to 13 and Director of Crop Improvement Program 2001 to 2010 before occupying the position of Deputy Director General of ICRISAT. As a scientist, he made an immense contribution for crop improvement programs, especially in from ICRISAT platform. He helped to develop and release more than 70 high-yielding chickpea varieties in 30 countries. It's not a small contribution. It is one of the biggest contribution of Dr. C L Laxmipathi Gowda. And considering his outstanding contribution, recognition came from several countries: Bangladesh, China, India, Nepal, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. And he received more than 30 awards during his long service as a researcher. And he received Dorian Mostler Award for Lifetime Achievement for Excellence in Science in 2012, and another award in the same year, International Service in Crop Science Award in USA, and Japan International Food Award in 2014. He is also elected as Fellow of the National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, NAS, in India, and Fellow of American Society of Agronomy in 2015. He is also Editor-in-Chief for several reputed journals, and his international experience, in short, I can say, he traveled widely in 40 countries, published 360 publications, 155 journal articles, 22 books, 54 book chapters, 30 research papers, 92 conference papers, and many more. So we are privileged, sir, to listen to you for next 1 hour, 45 minutes, followed by interaction with the audience. It's a great privilege for Manage and all the stakeholders who are attending this program to listen to your experiences and take your views on technology adoption, learning from global experiences. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Let me, at the outset, thank Dr. Chandrasekhara for inviting me to give this Krishi Gyandeep lecture, and also to Dr. Jaya for this lecture. Initially, I was asked to talk about my experience in extension activities during my career, but after discussing with Dr. Chandrasekhara, I preferred to call it technology adoption. Because as far as I am concerned, Extension in agriculture refers to extending the scientific knowledge and technologies related to agricultural practices through what we call farmer education to boost agricultural productivity. However, in terms of technology adoption, it refers to testing, acceptance, integration, and then the use of technology to increase agriculture productivity. And here, farmer is an active participant in the process, and this is what we call farmer participatory research methodology. And in most of the cases, this is what I was involved. So in order to do this technology adoption, we, being an international agriculture research center, an IRC, we don't get involved in either extension or technology adoption directly. That is not the way the international centers operate. We always work along with the national program and the local partners, such as the Department of Agriculture in different states, or with the agricultural university staff in different states or in different countries. So usually for technology adoption, we initially gather the perceived needs of the farmers in terms of what exactly are their constraints to production, identify and prioritize. And this is usually done through using the rapid rural appraisal or the participatory rural appraisal, either by using a scheduled questionnaire or a random questionnaire that we ask the concerned staff to do it. So once this identification is done, we then offer the available on-the-shelf technologies to the farmers to test, adapt, refine, and then adopt the technologies that are suitable to them, to their land, and to the socioeconomic conditions. Sometimes we may not have the necessary technologies that are available on the shelf. Therefore, we may have to conduct either on-station trials or maybe even on-farm backup experiments within the farmers' fields to find the solutions to the constraints that are expressed by the farmers. So that way, we try to address the needs of the farmers in terms of technology that are needed for them. So in many cases, these activities are project-based. So therefore, we need to document the process in terms of constraint identification, prioritization, technology testing, adaptation, and then the adoption process, so that periodic monitoring, assessment of adoption, and then impact assessment can be documented, because this is in many cases required either by the donor agency or the funding agency, or even many times by the national program administrators. So today, what I will be presenting are not necessarily the international center developed technologies, because not necessarily all the technologies are developed by the international centers such as ICRISAT, but these could be technologies that are assembled from different sources, from the national programs of one country or from different countries, so that farmers across the states or across different countries or even across continents can benefit from the adoption of new technologies. At least when I say new technologies, it is new to them because it did not exist in that particular state or country before it was introduced. So in all these cases, the credit or accolades are shared among the collaborating partners because it is, as I said, it is a joint activity done by the international research centers along with the national program partners. So today, my talk will cover, there are many aspects, but I will cover try to cover 4 aspects of technology adoption. And first of them would be as a chickpea breeder, I will talk about the adoption of chickpea varieties in different countries. And second, I will talk about public-private partnerships to enhance adoption of hybrid cultivars in sorghum and pearl millet. Number 3 would be the seed production and distribution systems, where I was involved for quite a long period, especially when I coordinated a Bill and Melinda Gates funded project on tropical legumes too, which was conducted in both in Asia as well as in many countries in sub-Saharan Africa also. Then the 4th one would be what we call the legume on-farm adaptive research, wherein I worked in 4 countries with funding that was provided by the United Nations Development Program way back in the 1990s. So coming to the first topic, that is adoption of chickpea varieties. First one is the chickpea revolution that happened in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. If some of you had heard Prime Minister Modi's talk during the Golden Jubilee celebrations of ICRISAT that was held on 5th February 2022, Prime Minister Modi mentioned about the chickpea revolution that happened in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, because this indeed was a huge success in technology adoption of improved both short as well as extra short duration chickpea varieties in Andhra Pradesh. Earlier, now of course it has been bifurcated into Andhra and Telangana. So essentially, these were 5 varieties: ICCB2, JJ11, KAK2, Vihar, Jaki 9218, and others. And by adoption of these improved short and extra short duration varieties, because these varieties were able to match the available soil moisture, because as most of you know, chickpea is a winter season crop. It is grown after the cessation of monsoon rains. So essentially it is grown on black soils under residual soil moisture conditions. So the varieties must be short enough to use that residual moisture that is available in the black soil areas where chickpea is cultivated. So by adopting these short and extra short duration varieties, area in Andhra Pradesh increased from about 168,000 to 600,000 hectares between 2000 to 2010, which is about 3.5 times increase. Production increased from about 95,000 tons to about 720,000 tons, which is a 7.5 times increase in production, and all because of the increase in yield per hectare, which increased from about 600 kilograms per hectare to more than 1,400 kilograms per hectare, which is almost doubling the yield per hectare. The second example is from Myanmar or Burma, where chickpea is extensively cultivated in 3 of the regions. In the central dry zone of Myanmar, in Sagaing, Mandalay, and Magwe regions. Here, they grow chickpea after the harvest of rice or after the harvest of kharif crops in the black soils. Again, the duration available is short. Therefore, short and extra short duration varieties are better adapted to the short season conditions. And Myanmar had released 8 extra short and short duration varieties, among them 5 Desi and 3 Kabuli varieties. And here also, area, production, and productivity increased dramatically. production increased from about 117,000 tons to 467,000 tons, which is 2.5 times the earlier yield, because yield per hectare increased from 700 kilograms to more than 1,400 kilograms, almost 2 times in between 2001 to 2011. And to the extent that the Myanmar government, which had banned export of chickpea for the last 2 decades, restarted exporting chickpea because there was a glut in the market. So the government didn't know what to do. So they allowed export, mostly, of course, through barter trade to India, and they were able to earn about $22 million per year by exporting chickpea after it was allowed by the government to be restarted. The third example is from the African continent in Ethiopia, where they released about 12 high-yielding short-duration varieties, which came from both ICRISAT and ICARDA supplied materials. And here also, area, production, and productivity increased substantially. Production increased from about 190,000 tons to about 340,000 tons between 2000 to 2011. Yield increased from 1,000 kilograms to 1,700 kilograms per hectare, and this resulted in this increase or doubling of the yield production in that country. And therefore, Ethiopia exported in 2011 about 49,500 tons of chickpea to other countries, including the Middle East and even to India. So in all these 3 cases, what are the lessons that we learned in terms of technology adoption? The major thing was availability of high yielding, short duration, and extra short duration that were able to be adjusted to the short growing season that was prevalent in these countries. Next important thing was farmer participation in identifying the varieties and also in disseminating the high-yielding varieties. Third is the concerted effort in seed production and distribution by the farmers, by the research stations, by the seed corporations, and also other government agencies, wherein they were able to multiply and supply the seed to many farmers in the country. At the same time, the research stations sort of supported all these activities by providing quality breeder and foundation seed so that the certified seed could be produced and supplied to the farming community. So this also enhanced what we call the synergy between the formal as well as the informal seed sectors in these countries. The second aspect of technology adoption that I would like to talk about is the public-private partnership in enhancing the technology adoption, especially in the hybrid seed of sorghum and pearl millet. As many of you may be aware, in the late 90s and early 2000s, most of the international centers had a funding crunch, including ICRISAT. So we were looking for ways to augment the funds for crop improvement research, especially for the hybrid parents research in sorghum and pearl millet. And we realized that Hyderabad, as you know, is the hub of private seed companies. There are more than 100 seed companies who have their headquarters in Hyderabad. And many of these companies were getting the seed material from ICRISAT. They were making hybrids, selling and making huge profits. And they were telling, look, we have made the huge profits all because of ICRISAT, and we would like to do something for ICRISAT in terms of giving back some of the profits that we get. But at that time, we had no mechanism to accept funding or donations from the private sector. But we discussed, with the pearl millet breeder at that time, Dr. K.N. Rai, sorghum breeder, Dr. Velam Subbareddy, and myself. We approached a few private sector companies, seed companies, with a proposal to form what we called the Hybrid Parents Research Consortium. We agreed on a membership fee for each company to join the consortium, with a proposal that if they join, in return, they will have the first access to the developed hybrid parents, both male sterile as well as restorer lines. So starting with about 9 seed companies that joined the consortium in the year 2000, the consortium grew to more than 50 seed companies which joined both sorghum and pearl millet hybrid parents research consortium. And to the extent that by about 2009, ICRISAT was able to generate about $600,000 in membership fee, which is at that time about 3 crore rupees that we were able to generate to support and augment the plant breeding research at that particular time. In order to look at, okay, what impact did it have, this Hybrid Parents Research Consortium? In the year 2013, there were about 10 million hectares of pearl millet grown in India. Out of this 10 million hectares, hybrids are cultivated in about 6 million hectares. So about 60% area is in hybrids. In this 6 million hectares, at that particular point in time, there were about 80 hybrids that were in cultivation. Of these 80 hybrids, about 70 hybrids were based on ICRISAT developed A and B lines. So you can gauge the impact of the Hybrid Parents Research Consortium in supporting the hybrid parents research in the private sector seed companies. So this was a successful public-private partnership, and it became a model to the extent that this was adopted by the International Research Institute, IRI, for hybrid rice, and then by CIMMYT for hybrid maize. So they followed the same model, but of course they did make some changes depending on what they felt was the need. So the third area that I said I will cover is the seed production and distribution system. And there are, I think, I've listed 7 or 8 seed systems where I was involved. As I said, this is under the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded project on tropical legumes too, which was active, implemented in India and in many countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Along with ICRISAT, we also had 3 other international centers who were participating. For example, ICARDA was there. We had CIAT. We had IATA. So all these scientists together, we were working to improve the seed production distribution system. And we tried to follow different methods. So we learned from one country and then tried to implement similar activities in other countries so that we could enhance the seed systems in each of these countries. So among these are, number 1 is the integrated formal and informal seed systems that was very successful in Andhra Pradesh chickpea adoption. I already mentioned about the chickpea revolution that happened in Andhra Pradesh, so I'm not going to talk more about that. 2 is the success of the informal seed systems, which means the farmers who got seed of improved varieties, they multiplied the seed, then shared it with their neighbors, their relatives, their friends, and through this, they were able to get the seed across to many, many thousands of farmers, of course, with minimal support from the Research and Extension Department of Myanmar, wherein they were also multiplying the seed, both the breeder and foundation seed, and then trying to support these informal seed systems in those three divisions that I mentioned. Third is the public-private partnership for delivery of quality hybrid seeds in sorghum and pearl millet. I mentioned about the Hybrid Parents Research Consortium and its impact and success. So I'm not going to talk more about that. So the fourth area is what is called as the farmer participatory varietal selection that was followed by a network called PABRA, PABRA, which is the Pan-African Bean Research Alliance, which is a national program alliance of many countries in sub-Saharan Africa, but it is coordinated and supported by CIAT. Here, the scientists provide 3 to 5 varieties with the group of farmers for testing and selection, and farmers test and then select whatever is the best for them. The data is collected, and the selected farmer preferred varieties are then scaled up by the scientists in terms of breeder and foundation seed production, involving both informal partners, which means the farmer groups, the self-help groups, the NGOs and others, and also the formal seed agencies of the government in order to ensure that seed is produced and distributed. So certified seed or truthfully labeled seed, or in that continent they call it QDS, quality declared seed. In India we call it truthfully labeled seed. It is then made available via seed markets and seed stores in different countries. The next one model that we followed is called the small seed packs model. The smallholder farmers, especially in Africa, may not be so much in India, they cannot afford to buy large quantities of packs of seed because usually seeds are packed in 2 to 5 kilogram packs, and farmers in those countries don't have resources to buy because most of them are smallholder farmers. So what PABRA, the network, did was to provide small seed packs. Mostly, they were dealing with beans. So they were providing 50 to 100 gram packs to the seed traders, which the farmers could afford to buy, maybe not necessarily one variety, but maybe 2-3 varieties, and then test these in small quantities. And if they like it, they will go back and buy the same variety of seed. So with this model, PABRA network was able to reach nearly 7 lakh farmers in 2010 and 2011. And with support from the Gates Foundation project, they were able to reach another 8 lakh farmers in 2012 and 13. So which was really a good kind of model for the small seed packs for the bean crop. The next one is what we call the seed voucher and the seed fairs model. This was pioneered by an NGO called the Catholic Relief Services, or CRS, wherein either they go to the weekly markets organized locally by traders, or they would organize their own seed fairs, which is organized by the project staff. In these seed fairs or weekly markets, the project staff would give the farmers who come to the market to buy seed, they will not give the seed, but they will give them vouchers of a specific value, which the farmers could exchange for seed from the traders, from other farmers or seed companies, which would be selling the seed in the weekly bazaar or in the seed fairs. Here, the farmers will have a choice of what crops they want to buy, what varieties they would like to buy from the seed fair. So the choice was left to them because they had the voucher, so they could exchange the voucher to the seed that was available of different crops of different varieties. And with this, farmers were able to test different small seed samples and then select what they prefer and test and then adopt some of the varieties that they felt are good for their conditions. The seed fairs or this seed voucher system help to build and strengthen the local seed systems and also help develop the local seed companies because of using this particular method. The last seed system method that I would like to describe here is what is called the Seed Revolving Fund Scheme, the SRF scheme. This has been used extensively in India under the National Seed Project, which was administered by ICR. However, this seed revolving fund is now being used in many of the sub-Saharan countries with support from the donor agencies. They didn't know it earlier. It was pioneered by one of the ICRISAT regional stations in Malawi for groundnut seed, wherein the ICRISAT scientists, along with the local partners, established what they call seed production clubs with 10 to 15 farmers per club. These seed production clubs received the breeder seed to produce the foundation seed. This foundation seed was under a buyback arrangement by ICRISAT. ICRISAT will buy that using the seed revolving fund. And then this foundation seed would then be sold by ICRISAT to the seed companies to produce the certified seed, which then these seed companies would then sell it to the farmers for commercial cultivation. So this was a huge success to the extent that the USAID Feed the Future program adopted this particular method for many other crops, and currently it is also funded and supported by the Malawi government for seed production and distribution for many crops. So these are a few examples that I thought had good adoption and impact in many of the countries. So I have tried to describe them. Then the fourth aspect that I mentioned earlier was in terms of on-farm adaptive research in legumes. As I said, this was funded by the United Nations Development Program way back in the 1990s. Between 90 and 95, we implemented this on-farm adaptive research program in Indonesia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. Common across all these countries was, of course, groundnut. It's only in Nepal that we had chickpea and pigeon pea also involved in the on-farm adaptive research, but in all other countries, it was mostly groundnut. So using what we call diagnostic surveys or participatory rural appraisal methods, we identified and prioritized the constraints to production. Then we had joint planning with the farmers for conducting on-farm trials. In many cases, technology was refined based on the feedback from the farmers. So refined technology was then fed back to the farmers so that they could test and adopt these technologies. In all these four countries, of course, there was varied level of success in terms of adoption of technologies. And I'm going to take the example of Vietnam, both South Vietnam and North Vietnam, because we conducted the on-farm adaptive research in both the regions and give what was the adoption and what was the impact. Some of the lessons that we learned during the implementation of this project was that we needed strong commitment and support by the government. In Vietnam, the Deputy Minister for Agriculture was the coordinator for this project from the national program side. So with that kind of a support from the government, with the Deputy Minister himself leading the effort, we had tremendous support and interest by all the researchers and extension staff within the provincial areas. And in addition to that, we found the dedication of the project staff from the national programs. They were very committed, and if we went on a survey or we went on a monitoring trip or went on other activities, they would be there, doing the work day in and day out. And that is the kind of dedication that they had. And of course, support by the district administration and its staff in technology dissemination. They also took quite a lot of interest in many districts. The district head was himself or herself there to support the activities, and therefore it was a huge success in a way. So in Vietnam, overall, the area between 1990 to 2000, when we did the impact survey, area increased from about 220,000 hectares to 310,000 hectares. In this time, yield increased from 2.2 to 2.8 tons in North Vietnam, from 3.1 to 3.6 tons in South Vietnam, because the areas were different, soil productivity was different, length of the growing season was different. So there is this difference. North Vietnam yields are much lower than what we got in South Vietnam. And with all this, I would say it was a big success. And 5 years after the implementation of the project, we went on a study which was to be done, and we went to do the impact assessment. And when we were going around the fields and assessing, one farmer came towards the evening, which was almost time for us to go back to Ho Chi Minh City, and he said, "You must come to my house." And he insisted. So we went to the house, and he was very happy to show that he had a small hut before, and now he was able to build a pakka house. And he said all because he was able to adopt the technologies that came under this on-farm adaptive research project, and he was happy that he is now able to build a good house. And we could see the smile on his face, having succeeded in adoption of these technologies. And this is something that I always tell the other scientists, that this is all we need in terms of satisfaction for being an on-farm scientist, is to see that smile on the smallholder farmer's face. And you don't need any data to say whether you had the impact of technology or not. The smile itself says 1,000 words. So in order to conclude, I would like to say that technology is a dynamic and continuous process. We need to learn the lessons and then move forward, taking these lessons, and then learn, of course, more lessons as we go through. And as I said earlier, we need the commitment from all the partners, be it from the government, from the private sector, from the NGOs, from the farmers, from the self-help groups. Only then we can succeed in technology adoption or in extending the technology. The technologies that are there on the shelf cannot possibly go onto the field and succeed. These need to be fine-tuned or refined or changed based on what the farmer's feedback is and what the farmers need. To the young scientists, I think we need to mentor them, we need to handhold them, because whatever the senior scientists have done, these mentoring and handholding is needed, because we need to train the next generation of technology exchange specialists or extension specialists so that they can become better in exchanging the technology and adoption of technology. So with this, Dr. Chandrasekhara, I would end my talk. Thank you.
That's a very long journey of technology adoption. Sir, now the session is open for discussion.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Ujwala Bankhele, District Superintending Agriculture Officer, Raigad, from Konkan Division of Maharashtra.
Okay.
Sir, I would like to know that for chickpea, actually we tried in Konkan region, in particularly Raigad district, we tried a lot for chickpea production, but due to less winter season, the winter is for a very less period in Konkan area. The pod formation or the grain inside the pod, we found very in fact we got failure into that. So I would like to know the varieties which are of less duration and can be can give higher production in the coastal areas where winter season is very less.
Oh, no, we had such problems even in other areas. Coastal areas, chickpea is not really well adapted, especially in areas where soils are acidic and there is usually boron deficiency. So with that, seed formation gets affected. In fact, even pod formation itself is affected because the flower drops. So you need to test the soil, whether it is highly acidic. If it is highly acidic, chickpea will not succeed. And maybe you may need to add a lot of lime and then maybe even some boron. So my suggestion is maybe you should talk to the scientists in Konkan Krishi Vidyapith in Dhapoli to see if there are definitely short duration varieties now. There are varieties which can mature in 70 days. We call it extra short duration varieties. Varieties are there, but you need to look at the soil and also the rainfall pattern, because if there is rainfall during the growing season, then chickpea doesn't grow well.
Sir, can you throw some light on how the voucher system you implemented there?
No, here, the implementing agency here, it was the Catholic Relief Services. So what they would do is, it is like, they will have some vouchers. Let's say in the Indian context, it could be a 50 rupee voucher, a 100 rupee voucher. So you cannot exchange it for money, you can exchange it for seed. So if you want to buy a seed pack of 100 grams, maybe you may need to give a voucher of 50 rupees to the trader and get that. So similarly, other voucher that is available would be exchanged for seed of different varieties of different crops. So some crops may cost more, some crops may cost less, depending on that. So the person could buy maybe 2 or 3 seed packs with maybe 50 rupees each.
In Konkan region, we have some bean varieties which are traditionally very tasty varieties, and those are particularly grown in this Konkan area only. And we are actually going to try the geographical indication for these varieties also. But the problem is that the seed production is not available, or we want the certified seed or truthful seed on a larger scale from agriculture university, means that BSKKV Dapoli. We are in good contact with them, but they said they have some varieties like Kokan Bhushan, like that, in pipeline. So I think it will take a longer duration to come with particular varieties in beans, because a bean crop we are getting very high production, as well as this is very suitable to the coastal climatic situation in Raigad district. But the seed is not available. That is a major constraint. Similarly, there are 3-4 other legumes like we call it as in matki, chaudi in Marathi. And those are the traditional seeds which the farmers have their seed on their own. We tried to expand the area through Atma by purchasing seed from farmers, and again distributing free of cost to the farmers, the adjacent farmers in adjacent villages. But sir, this is very small attempt that we can expand the area. For larger scale, we need the assistance from the university, as well as if ICRISAT can come ahead for this thing, it will be helpful to Konkan region.
Yeah, I think you said about the local varieties for which you are trying to get certification. I think now you can take a PVP, plant breeders' right, on a local variety developed even by the farmer, if you can provide the necessary data and then get it approved by the PPV FRA in Delhi. Because recently in Karnataka, one of the farmer was able to register his paddy variety as a plant breeder right. So now that particular farmer has the right to multiply and then sell the seed. So such thing is possible, but as you said, it needs support from maybe a KVK can support it, or maybe the university, agriculture university can make to the support. But we need to try and do it. It's possible.
I am from a seed company, Bombay Super Hybrid Seeds Limited. One is the machine harvesting chickpea. Because labor is day by day increasing, the issues across Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, everywhere. Second is stress tolerance, and drought tolerance or stress tolerance. And third is Heliothis resistance. These are the areas which is require now a practical attention for chickpea as well as a pigeon pea. So can you able to throw some light on the availability of the varieties, or any work is going on? Even they throw open the MOA for this research work. Seed companies are definitely going to take participate. So it will be, if you can throw some light on this.
I think in terms of machine harvesting and stress tolerance, there are definitely varieties available which are suitable for machine harvesting. The Agriculture Research Station in Nandyal in Andhra Pradesh, they have released a variety. So maybe you can approach and try to get that variety. And then in terms of drought tolerance, I think last year ICRISAT and the Indian Institute of Pulses Research in Kanpur, they have developed a variety using marker-assisted selection that is tolerant to drought. You can get it from them. So the efforts are there. I think it's only the question of accessing the seed and trying to contact the right person and then get the necessary seed and information.
Sir, myself, Dr. SP Singh from Uttar Pradesh. Sir, I want to know that any hybrid seed is available in chickpea or in pea or not, sir? Otherwise,
there is no hybrid in chickpea because we don't have male sterile lines and we don't have cross-pollination that is possible in chickpea, so we can't have any hybrid varieties. But we do have hybrids in pigeon pea. There are quite a few hybrids that are available in pigeon pea, but they are mostly adapted to southern India and central India, not to northern parts of India as yet.
Sir, you traveled in several countries. In which country we can find, based on your experience, the best research extension farmer market linkage system, where the linkage is very strong?
They have good research extension system, but then marketing link is not really that strong. But among all, I would say Vietnam by far best in terms of these linkages. Although a socialist country, but they still have some government control over some of these activities, and they are able to do that. So I would put Vietnam as one of the things.
On behalf of Managed Family, I would like to thank you, sir. Of course, I have one or two, they are not questions actually, but the issues will remain. But for the benefit of all my colleagues, I would like to share. Especially we are talking about nutrition sensitive crops. The government, public, private organizations, they're giving more emphasis on that. As a scientist, they invest their life for developing nutrition sensitive crop. But this very important aspect goes unnoticed when we go to market. When we go to market, it is only the productivity and the market trends, but not the nutrition component of a particular commodity which surfaces, which is very critical for developing the society. Maybe the scientist extension closer linkage is very much important in highlighting the nutrition sensitive crops. That is number one. Number two, we heard some of the success stories like hybrid parent consortium. It's a very good idea actually. So can we institutionalize this kind of mechanism wherever we go for developing some improved varieties, crop improvement programs, so that the best varieties will reach the farmers at the earliest? So that we have to think how to institutionalize is a challenge before us. Maybe policy intervention is required in this regard. Then some of the farmer to farmer seed distribution systems you highlighted. But again, how can we institutionalize? Because Madam Ujjwala talked about one of the difficult challenge they faced in Atma setup in order to carry forward this extension activity, and how we are going to institutionalize some of the informal farmer to farmer seed distribution systems which became success. So that is of course before manage actually. This is a learning for us. Then Of course, now one of the important development we have to take into consideration, that is emergence of farmer producers organizations. It's very difficult to knock the door of every individual farmer, but when farmers are 500 or 1000 together, it makes our job easy, including seed extension. Very nice, sir. It was a very interesting story, traveling to many countries, sharing several examples, and you enriched our experience and learning. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time and benefiting all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.